Grace is the name of my beloved wife, and we are both 34 years old. I wouldn't say I'm fat, but I could lose some weight. Plus, I've always liked how I look. It was easy for me to date people of the opposite sex while I was in college. But when I met my future wife during my freshman year, that all stopped. We only dated until she asked me to marry her, and 7 months later, she said yes. In college, she had a lot of fans, and men have always been interested in her. She fills any room with energy and light right away. Her sense of humor is something to admire. We liked being together so much that I thought we were a great match. The only problem is that we don't spend enough time together. Her name is Sarah and her job title is registered nurse in the orthopedic department of a big hospital. I work as a systems engineer at a big IT company. I work 9 hours a day, 6 days a week, but sometimes I have to stay late because I need to finish a tough job quickly. We don't see each other during the week because of work. We see each other at night when Grace works the day shift, but she's always so tired that she goes to bed by 10 as soon as she gets home. On the weekends, we try to make up for not being close during the week. We talked about fantasies a lot, and we both decided that they should stay fantasies. I could count on her for everything, and she told me I was the love of her life. I don't have time to cheat, and she knows how I feel about it. It was something I couldn't stand. Monday through Thursday, she works 13 hours a day, 4 days a week. Every 4 weeks, she switched jobs. Most shifts last 7 to 8 days or at night. She also has to change shifts, which takes about an hour since she started working in orthopedics. So, she usually gets home around 9:30 in the morning and evening. I've been telling her for 2 years that she needs a stable job, but she loves what she does and doesn't want to change, so we put up with her odd hours. We both had school loans when we got married, and we agreed that we should pay them off before having kids. We chose not to have children until we were settled in a nice house and area after the loans were paid off. When we reached that goal 3 years ago, we knew it was time for her to get pregnant. She didn't, though. It was Monday, and I got off work early because I thought I had the flu. I texted my wife that I was feeling sick and going home. She told me to take some flu medicine. I asked her what kind of medicine she had and where I could get it. This is what she said: Tamiflu. It was in the medicine jar and the second box under her vanity in our bathroom. I just said okay and went home. When I got home, I went to the master bathroom to find her medicine but found something else. I looked through the drawer she pointed out but couldn't find anything marked Tamiflu. I opened the drawer at the top and found birth control pills and medicine for the flu. She had already taken the one that said today. It shocked me so much. She told me she stopped taking the pill more than 3 years ago. We had been trying for 3 years but were not able to have a child. My wife just told me that our work schedules were bad luck and that sooner or later they would line up with her period. I finally had enough in the spring, so we both took a test. Our doctor said there was nothing wrong with either of us after many tests. When I looked at the plastic package of pills, I thought it might be an old one. But then I saw that the days of the pills were marked with the months, and the right pill for today had already been taken out. Today was the 18th of the month, a Tuesday, and 18 pills had already been taken. They were going to expire in 2 years, so they must have been renewed not long ago. At the same time, I went through a number of different possible outcomes in my thoughts. Grace, did you really want a family? Was she seeing someone else in secret? Was she sick in some way I didn't know about? What made her lie to me? The longer we put off having kids, the harder it would be because our bodies weren't getting any younger. How should I talk to her? After taking Tamiflu, I went to bed. Next thing I know, Grace is shaking me and asking what's wrong and if I need anything. I'm better now and know I don't need anything. It made me sad that she didn't tell me anything, but she didn't say anything. I watched her take off her clothes to take a shower while she clearly thought I had passed out again. I thought I saw some redness on her body. I realized all of a sudden that she must have slept with someone else after work before she got home. In the other job, it took her less than 10 minutes to switch shifts. Why does it need to take an hour? I walked over to the bathroom mirror and watched her image. She didn't close the door, so I could see her. It seemed like she had spent way too much time cleaning up. Did this happen often? I didn't know because I had never seen her before. She took off her clothes in our bedroom where she had left them. Yes, her underwear was still wet when I picked them up. I put it back under her robe and went back to sleep. I couldn't put into words how angry I was. I thought everything in my life was great up until now. I wasn't sure anymore. Grace had been a great wife while she was sitting next to me. But I thought there must be another side to her that I wasn't seeing. What I needed was more information. After taking a shower, she came back into the bedroom and climbed into bed with me. I had never been up this late before. I stayed by her side, and she didn't even try to hug or comfort me. She was gone when I woke up the next morning. I told my boss I had the flu when I called him. When I got sick, I had a lot of time off to figure out what to do. Since one of my best college friends had become a lawyer, I called him up and asked for help. I soon found out that our state was a no-fault state. Since we didn't have any kids, we only had to split our assets 50-50ths. The most important thing was our house, which had some value and had to be sold so that the money could be split. If I chose to sue someone, my friend agreed to be my lawyer. He told me it was a sure thing. That night at 8 o'clock, I parked outside of Grace's car to follow her. We both have iPhones, and I used the Find My Phone app to see where she was and found that she was still in the orthopedic ward. After 10 minutes, I knew she was on her way, so I called the orthopedist and asked to speak to her. When I did, I was told that her shift was over and she had already left. It occurred to me that she had lied to me about the time between shifts, which was only 10 minutes or less. In the meantime, I kept looking at the app on my phone and saw that the blue dot had stopped in a part of the hospital complex I didn't know. I got out of the car and went to look for her phone. It wasn't simple like it looked. I found a spot, but it was on the wrong floor. After what seemed like 20 minutes, I finally found myself outside of a room where doctors went to rest after long shifts. I could hear the sounds of people making love inside. There was an open janitor's closet about 50 feet away that I could hide in to see who left the room. It had been about 20 minutes when Grace left the room and went to the garage. After a short time, a man came out. He locked the door after a while. I went up to him and asked for directions, which he gladly gave me. He looked like a Greek god and was a few inches taller than me. When I looked at his name tag, I saw that it said Dr. William. I had to make a plan. I called my boss from home and told him that I did have the flu but that I had to take some time off to deal with an important family matter. He knew this because he had been through a terrible breakup himself a year before. Take as much time as you need, but let him know what's going on so he can cover. That night, after Grace left the house after having sex on Thursday night, I called my lawyer friend Max and told him I wanted to service her. He asked if there was anything else he could do to help and said he could do that. He told me he would split our money and cancel our credit cards because I didn't know what else to do. What were my plans after I left her? Could I go somewhere? I tried to deal with things as they came up, but I knew I wasn't there yet. He told me to go to his office right away in the morning. Max had already done this a few times and gave me a list of things to do. He even had a list of places with good prices for a week. One of the first things I had to do was call a shipping company to set up delivery of a small package for the next morning. For now, I'm just going to store my things until I find a better place to live. The next place we went was to the bank, where I closed half of our accounts and deleted our credit cards. I made the accounts work again, but only in my name, and got new credit cards. Then I called her cell phone and turned it off. After I was served that night at midnight, I went to my computer room to save files that I might need in the next few weeks. That's when Grace arrived home on time at 9:30. We said hello to each other, and she then took a shower and went to bed. I also went to bed very early because I had a lot to do the next day. It was like she never knew I went to bed. I had no idea how cold she had gotten. The next morning, she left early, and the movers showed up right on time at 9. Things that needed to be packed were marked on a list of things I needed to bring. There were bags and computers in my car that I would need for work after the movers were gone. Going outside and buying one black rose because it means death and going, as well as big changes or upheaval in the future. A black rose also means the end of old habits and ways of doing things. It meant the end of our marriage in this case. I put it in the middle of the kitchen table and wrote something on it. I called you on Monday to tell you I was sick and going home, Grace. Do you remember? You told me where to get Tamiflu and told me to take it. But it wasn't in your second vanity table. It was in the top box next to your birth control pills. All of a sudden, many puzzle pieces fit together. There was no way you could have been trying to have a baby because you were seeing a doctor at work. I believe your relationship with Dr. William was more important than our marriage, and I know it has been going on since you were moved to orthopedics. How could you tell so many lies? I thought our marriage was great and that we could trust each other fully. I thought you loved me, but now you've hurt my feelings. You must have known that when I told you that our marriage was ending. What do you think? We don't have a no-fault state, so I don't need proof that you cheated on me, which would be very easy to get. Our money was split, and I got everything I wanted from the house. Have you found that your credit cards and cell phone may not be working? Also, find a place to move because I'm going to sell the house in 60 days and give everything inside to Goodwill. Whatever you want to do now is fine. He must be married and have kids, right? You should know that his wife will find out. What is the hospital going to say? Remember how I said I wouldn't stand cheating? What I'm doing is just getting you ready for what might happen. John, you are no longer my husband. That's my wedding ring, which I no longer need. I left the ring on the piece of paper on the table and left the house. I booked a room at a hotel with a weekly rate and waited. A deputy sheriff who worked for Frank in his free time took care of Grace. Service was what he did best. It looks like she had a temper fit and passed out. The doctor had to get out of his room in his underwear to help her. After an hour, though, she called me angry and asked why I was suing for divorce. I asked her why she was being so stupid. I told her she had been cheating on me ever since she went to the orthopedic doctor more than 2 years ago. I told her that I found her birth control pills last Monday while I was looking for Tamiflu. She asked me when I found out about her affair. On the phone, I heard her sigh. It was simple to understand after that. I hung up the phone because it looked like she hadn't read my letter. I chose to go to work the next day even though I didn't get much sleep. I found a huge amount of work that had piled up. I worked 16 hours a day, 7 days a week because I had nowhere to go or anyone to go home to. Max and I talked a lot. One day, I asked him if the doctor was married and if so, how could I tell his wife? He would think about it. Grace was fighting the divorce. I hadn't seen or heard from her, but her lawyer was talking to Max. There I was, in the same room as her, with the hearing date coming up. She wasn't looking at me, though. There was a black rose on the collar of my suit. I didn't like the judge, and I didn't like divorce cases. Max asked Grace what the point was since she had been cheating on him for a while. Grace wanted us to go to therapy. I told the judge straight out that I was not going to any therapy that the court had ordered. It didn't bother me if he jailed me. I thought my wife was a liar, cheater, and dishonest person, and I didn't even want to be in the same room as her. That's what I told him. He said I hadn't done anything wrong and that Grace was the one who broke our wedding promises, which is what caused the divorce. You should send her to therapy because she needs it. I was quickly fined for disobeying the court. Max had to get me out of court before he said anything that would get me sent to jail, so I didn't care. I was mad. That it was just a meeting, he told me. To do a lot of damage, I asked Max to find out if Grace was avoiding the doctor. Someone Max hired put up a camera in the doctor's break room and filmed them after work. She was also caught on tape yelling bad things about me. The sex was so intense that it would make an X-rated movie look too mild. They were basically just bed buddies and barely kissed or touched each other. Now that we had film proof, I asked Max if the hospital could be held responsible. He didn't think we could use the tape in court, but he did say that if it got out from an unknown source, it would be bad for the hospital and get them unwanted attention. As soon as the divorce was complete, he told me to send a video to the hospital staff, the doctor's wife, our friends, and family. Based on what he said, I would have to pay alimony if she was fired before the split was final. Of course, I didn't want to do that. Now it was time for the divorce. The judge agreed to the divorce without asking either party what they thought. He said there was already too much bad blood between us and that our marriage could not be fixed, so the divorce was given. The next day, the video got out from a source I don't know, and it had nothing to do with me. Hit the fan quickly. Grace called me and asked me what I was up to. I told her that there was no proof that I had shared the video, but I did want to thank the person who did it. I also told her I wouldn't stand being cheated on. But she did it right in front of me and kept doing it after I filed for divorce. She was no longer married to anyone. She agreed with me that things could be worse. When our family and friends saw the tape the next day, it made things worse. No one was nice to her, but everyone was on my side. Everybody thought our marriage was great. I haven't seen or heard from Grace since then, 3 years ago. She's been sneaky and really tired. I married a wonderful woman a second time, and we have a girl who is 1 year old. My new wife wants to have a lot of kids and stay at home with them. That is what I have always needed. Have you thought about what happened to Grace and William? They had a rough time. Grace tried to talk to me for almost a year, but I don't know why. I didn't give her a chance to make things right. Both William and Grace were fired without any thanks. The wife of William asked for a divorce. It would have been fine for Grace, but I sent the video to our family and friends. It was the last straw for her, and she began to consider going to start over. She might not have lost her job if she hadn't tried to fight the breakup. Grace didn't want a divorce, so she went to therapy. But I got mad at her, and she lost the case in court. Her second mistake was that she kept seeing William and having sex with him. It was a good idea for me to wait to send the video until our divorce was completed. If I sent the video out before we got divorced and she got fired, I would have had to pay her money. Grace finally moved to Oklahoma City and got a job as a nurse in a doctor's office. She felt totally ashamed and embarrassed. Her life may be getting better, and I hope she has learned from her mistake.